Hello on day two of the 33rd annual RSA conference. What a first day was yesterday. I'm Rowan Nerona, and with me today is Michael Cookie, VP Product Marketing at Sumo Logic. Hey there, Mike.
Thanks for having me, man.
So this year's theme is the art of the possible. It's a phrase that on the one hand is meant to inspire hope, but also serve as a warning. We should never underestimate what is possible by our adversaries. We've seen the art of the possible come to life when dev, sec, and ops teams collaborate better to make data-driven decisions. Now those very teams need to work together with artificial intelligence massive potential to safeguard against its abuses. The velocity and sophistication of attacks they're on the rise, to say the least. AI helps both us and the bad guys, unfortunately. Mike, how is Sumo Logic adopting AI to help its customers fend off the bad actors?
Totally true. The theme this year is definitely about being AI driven, if not even a bit AI washed, if you will. But there's no doubt it's an arms race, and we're trying to stay at the edge of it without here at Sumo Logic. We have a lot of benefits at Sumo Logic because we are a massive, centralized, multi-tenant, cloud native, and scalable platform. So we're collecting so much data that we can use AI and machine learning in a lot of unique ways. If I had to break it down to maybe three categories, one is simplifying the configuration and the management and the tuning of our security stacks. I think AI and ML can do a ton of work for us there, making it much more simple and auto configuring and auto thresholding things. The second is to identify what's actually wrong when something's going wrong. So the first you could imagine is reduce the maintenance and also kind of make it brainless to realize when something is amiss. The second is identify what's going wrong really fast. So get to the root cause and be able to solve the problem very, very quickly. For us, that's, again, you mentioned three personas or three roles at the organization. Really, these problems are coming at us from all different vectors inside our environment. So it can be in the code, it can be in the cloud, it could be in the platform, it could be something in the stack of software delivering all that, or it could just be brute force malicious behavior. So you need your security stack, your developer stack, and your cloud and platform stack all in one place to solve a problem. So ML is doing a great job helping companies get to the root cause of what's wrong. And then finally is solving the problem. And, last year there was a lot of talk around automation. I think this year automation has become a native part of the solution. And so not only identifying what's wrong, then being able with machine learning to kick off intelligent diagnostics and playbooks to go gain context and then actually run out and solve the problem. So I agree, AI and ML are going to have major impacts on how we solve security issues.
So this is Mike, this is timely. Can you expand on how Sumo Logic is redefining security in this age of AI? It's clear to everyone that customers need to leverage AI to rethink cybersecurity altogether, where visibility and enforcement are woven into the fabric of our cloud environment or their cloud environment. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. The first thing to say is, you really have to remove visibility gaps from your environment. I already mentioned that these threat actors can find vulnerabilities in any of these different components of our digital enterprise, if you will. Yeah. And so you need to get all of this data back into one place. And so how we're doing this at Sumo is leveraging some of our core capabilities that have always differentiated us. We have an extremely scalable, extremely fast ability to query data, whether it's structured or unstructured. And so what we've done is taken that scalability and we've opened it up to our customers so that we've basically offered something called unlimited ingest. So customers can now send logs from their entire environment. I think, talking to CISOs, talking to SecOps teams, they were constantly having to make sacrifices really based on budget that, they would choose a certain portion of their logs, a certain portion of their systems and their intelligence to send through real-time analytics. And hopefully with Sumo Logic, those days are over. We obviously have a world-class SIM where we're doing real-time threat detection and investigation and response. Our underlying platform, our log analytics platform, now can become that container for all of your log data across the enterprise. And we've built some machine learning and AI that I can mention more about in a few minutes inside of there. So you get the SIM for real-time threat detection across your primary security log data. And then basically you're building a source of truth in the background that we're also running AI and ML across. So the first is remove visibility gaps from your environment. I think, it's when you go to do forensics, you go to find exactly what's happened and you realize that the data is not there. You're losing. And in even as little as a year ago, 2 years ago, you would be asked to maybe load data into the system, rehydrate data so it's available. Now you got to have it. It's got to be at your fingertips. It's got to be, fully ready to be queried both by machine learning and by humans trying to solve problems. Another piece is just being able to find insights very, very quickly. We announced here an advancement to our MITRE framework. Again, very unique to Sumo. There's a lot of players on the market that are saying they're next gen, but the truth of the matter is we have this benefit of having over 2,000 customers running on our platform at the same time. So we can actually run machine learning across our platform, and we can see trends that are occurring and behaviors and benchmarks that are occurring across 2,300 of your peers. And so we introduced our MITRE framework dashboard quite a while ago. You're able to come in and obviously overlook how your infrastructure stands with respect to the MITRE framework and identify vulnerabilities that you may have a need to address in your environment. Now what we've done is we've actually linked that to what we call global intelligence. And so with a flick of a button, you can see what your peers' MITRE stance is at the same time. And that's super powerful to make sure that you're addressing areas that are current and present dangers to your environment. We've built in a lot of, I mentioned auto configuration earlier, but we've built a lot of ML-driven thresholding, fine-tuning of triggers and alerting, AI-driven alerts so that we're much, much more accurate. We're reducing false positives. We're helping customers build triggers and rules that are relevant and effective, but not noisy. And I think the alert fatigue that's going on is something that has to be solved, and those technologies definitely help solve it. All leveraging machine learning, by the way. And then, identifying what's gone wrong or something that's amiss. It's no longer a static set of rules that does that. And so user and event behavior analytics that can do anomaly prediction and anomaly identification is how you stand out. But again, these things have to be done with a central set of data so that you can run machine learning across that. And it has to be so much data that you're getting an enterprise-wide view across that environment. And so those are a few things in finding insights quickly. And then finally, I mentioned solving problems. We introduced a preview for our Copilot offering. It's unique in the space because it analyzes your specific log data and it actually makes suggestions for what to go look at first, cutting out all of the kind of ad hoc querying and investigation that would have had to happen in the past. We're super excited about that. And then one other piece is just that we've always been unlimited users, one interface to solve these problems. So solving problems with a single source of truth. So it's about having no visibility gaps. It's about finding insights and problems extremely quickly, if not predictively, and then solving the problem very rapidly across silos in the organization.
So, Mike, with the advent of these new tools, techniques, and you mentioned AI, we finally have additional capabilities to now simplify communication, reduce the toil for a DevSecOps reality. Why do you believe that this finally is and should be the new reality to break silos and really enable DevSecOps teams to collaborate to solve the hardest operational and security challenges faster?
Yeah. So I think we're doing a talk at RSA. It's called Many Sources, One Truth. And some of that talk actually walks through an incident, a security incident that Sumo Logic had. And and I think it's indicative of how most incidents occur, right? It's actually very rare these days that a security team can identify a problem and resolve a problem at its root cause all on their own, right? It's likely that there's cloud vulnerability or cloud configuration management or, cloud permissions and access controls, or potentially a problem inside of a developer's code or a piece of the stack that the developers just updated or rolled out. It's something like 70% plus of incidents actually involve changes that are occurring inside of applications. So if you look at the rate that we're delivering applications to the market, agile delivery, microservice delivery, leveraging the cloud effectively, you're pushing changes out into this environment 1,000 times a day. I mean, that's not even an exaggeration to say that, a complex application might change 1,000 times a day. And so we really can't do this in a single silo. And when you go to solve the problem, you're going to undoubtedly have to work down and across lines inside of the organization. In our own incident, we had developers who discovered something was amiss using our cloud infrastructure security dashboardings. They notified security tweaked and tuned the SIM and did forensics on the SIM to get better and better at isolating where the problem was. And the problem actually was inside of cloud configuration, and so that required the platform and the cloud team to get involved. So even in our own cases, we see problems that take across the org, the entire digital operations spectrum coming to solve problems. So it's about shifting left. It's about security adapting to the rate that business is implementing digitally. And in my opinion, that means everybody working together. Our most contemporary customers, are working cross lines, and maybe on a technical perspective, a way that this is being pulled together from AI is by building cross silo automation. And so we have the ability to design playbooks that have humans in the middle. And so you can execute some automated diagnostics and investigation, and then you can actually have checkpoints with the correct people in the correct organizations. And it's a way to kind of orchestrate and build a workflow across multiple silos to solve a problem. And this is possible for two reasons. Number one, a couple of years ago, we talked about automation as outside of this world, but today automation is a core requirement inside of your SIM, inside of your security response. But second of all, I mentioned this a couple of times, you need all your data in one place. You need a single interface, because all these teams have to very quickly agree on what's happening and agree on how to solve it. And if they all have their own stacks of technology and their own interfaces, you're never going to get there.
You touched on SIM. Let's go there for a second. So you and I walked the show floor yesterday, and we saw quite a few companies running around talking about next gen of SIM. Reality is this is first gen for many of them. They say the promise of SIM has failed in the past. Instead of delivering, machine speed to defeat adversaries, they assert that the SIM is a data dumping ground where efficiency and proactive protection goes to die. So for me, these are merely sound bites from companies that just don't meet modern enterprise needs for threat detection. And there's a landscape of three-letter acronyms: EDR, NDR, XDR, all claiming to know what is next regarding SIM. But it's worth noting that those who give the stamp of approval for the SIM category, Gartner, they believe Sumo Logic is challenging the status quo. What are your thoughts on all this chatter about next gen SIM?
In one way, I'm encouraged by it, because I think every vendor now realized, oh shoot, we've got to be able to do all these things, and so that's good news. 3-4 years ago, there was talk about XDR, and what's kind of emerged as the XDR backend is what I would call what is going to be the foundation for the next gen SIM. But to be a backend, you have to be massively scalable. You have to be able to centralize. You need enterprise-wide scope, right? So just the nature of endpoint-based technologies, we all need them and love them, and they're wonderful. But you need a centralized place to be driving this intelligence off of. Machine learning and AI becomes exponentially more powerful the more data you give it to process on. And so that's a big deal. I would agree. RSA is noisy this year. And a little frustrating. Like, I think AI driven is on every booth, like
Yeah.
maybe 95% of the booths. And half the people that are using the terms, I don't think actually have anything truly implemented in the product that's production grade. So for me, next gen sim, it's got to be built with the cloud first mentality, right? It's got to be built for these highly complex, very large scope, rapidly changing environments based on microservices. So it needs to scale super rapidly. Some of our customers, again, we're supporting 2,300 plus customers simultaneously on one platform. Some of these customers are the world's largest entertainment companies, the world's largest gaming companies, you name it. And it's not uncommon to see one of them overnight scale hundreds and hundreds of terabytes. If you take some of these other technologies, these other SIM technologies that were built for single tenant solutions, right? Like that really comes down to that. Like, were you built just to run one stack's load and capacity? Because that's not where we are anymore, right? So people are trying to take legacy-based, single tenant, non-cloud-based solutions and port them into this cloud environment that we've talked a lot about today. And they literally break. Like, I mean, the number of customers telling me that rules engines can't scale and that ingest is breaking on these solutions, I think that's ultimately table stakes now. And then I talked a little bit about this, but there was a SOAR market, a whole entire market dedicated to security orchestration and automating response. Today, that's part of the TDIR, part of threat detection, investigation, and response and resolution that has to happen inside the SIM. So, I think there's probably one or two vendors that have the right approach technically to be kind of actually using the word next gen SIM. For us, we've been at this a long time. We have dubbed where we're heading fifth gen SIM because we feel like we've basically been ratcheting up our capabilities in over many years. And for us, this next step is about bringing ML and automation into everything we do, and crossing silos to actually resolve the problem. It's one thing to detect the problem, but you gotta get out there and solve it.
Love it. Before we head off to day 2, and by the way, everything you just said on SIM, Gartner vouches for our vision of the SIM. They're coming out with their Magic Quadrant. I think people will be pleasantly surprised at where we land. We are challenging the status quo. Before we head off to day 2, last thoughts, observations.
Yeah, I think maybe just following on what I just said, I think there's something at RSA that's troubling, which is it feels like I'm walking around in the security silo. Like, I really feel proud to be focusing on not just innocence, not just declaring it's not our fault or it didn't happen here, but actually being proactive about solving problems. And so, I think, I'm in product marketing, so this may have been a career limiting decision, but I think our booth is the only booth that says DevSecOps working together, unifying DevSecOps. Exactly. And so, I really feel we've got a unique take on solving problems for the business. One other thing, like we had an IDC report come out, 400% ROI, 4-month payback. The way you do that is not just sitting back and firing off alarms. The way you do that is resolving a business critical issue on a business critical application, right? There's millions of dollars at risk there. And so the more I could push this industry to kind of reach across lines and become part of the fabric of digital operations, which includes the cloud team, it includes all the developers. It's the way to solve the next generation of problems. And so I think getting all of our technology in a unified place, enabling customers to unify logs at no cost, and then just basically focusing on analytics over that is the right approach. So I actually hope more of our vendors out there and competition help lead the way, because some of it feels antiquated, to be honest. And you can't just slap AI driven on, on a 10-year-old approach. That's like,
Right.
the approach has to change. So anyway, I'm psyched to get back down there. I appreciate the chat. I think we're in an exciting time for the space for sure.
Thank you, Mike. Great insights. Enjoy the rest of day 2.
Thank you,
Take care,
Rowan.
Frank.
Appreciate the time.